Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Ketogenic Fasting Project. I'm Tom. This is my channel, and I've been talking about ketogenic diet, fasting, and now carnivore for a little while. The other day, I was engaging in a conversation with an online person who's vegetarian, and I noticed that they made a comment that I've heard a number of places that if we were carnivores, we would be able to eat raw meat or we wouldn't have to eat cooked meat. So, anyways, I don't know about you guys, but my dog likes cooked meat just as much as he likes raw meat. And I like raw meat just as much as I like cooked meat. So, anyways, I just thought I'd show off that big, beautiful steak there. I know I've been I've been doing an experiment with eating leaner cuts of meat, and every time I buy one of those great big London broils, I can't believe how beautiful that meat is. And for the record, a lot of people eat raw meat. When I started telling people I eat raw meat, and I don't eat raw meat all the time, I probably eat more cooked meat than raw meat, but when I started telling people that I ate raw meat, the biggest thing that surprised me was how many people uh, told me about other people that eat raw meat or they eat raw meat themselves. You can eat raw meat in a fancy restaurant, or you can eat some London broil at home by yourself or whatever. Uh, but people eat raw meat all the time, every day, in many, many countries all over the world. And I'm pretty sure they have since the beginning of time. So, anyways, I'm not telling other people it's right for them or that it's safe or anything like that because everything comes with risk. But I think cooking meat really just extends the amount of time that meat's viable as a food. So I don't know. I and a lot of other people feel that fresh meat is really good raw and probably very nutritious. I know people get into that weird argument about whether things are more nutritious when they're cooked or when they're raw. We went through that with the whole fruits and vegetable thing. And if you look at the studies, it really just depends on what nutrient you're talking about and which food. Because I remember in particular, like with tomatoes, more of the nutrients in the tomato typically were bioavailable after it was cooked as opposed to when it was raw. When it's raw, a lot of those nutrients just pass through you and don't get absorbed. So, anyways, I'll let other people argue about that because I don't really care about that too much. I just know that what I'm doing is working for me, and I hope that some of the people out there who aren't doing so good might consider giving the carnivore diet a try, whether they eat cooked or raw or whatever, or just give the ketogenic diet a try. See if it helps them, because I hate to see people go through life being sick and spending all their money on medicine and going to doctors and not getting answers. I mean, sometimes you go to the doctor and they're able to fix you up right away. But as we can see now, with all the people that are diabetic or pre-diabetic and have to take insulin and metformin and all the other stuff that goes along with it, a lot of people aren't doing so good, you know. And this way of eating could very well help a lot of people. Another thing that kind of struck a chord with me was I saw a tweet from Sean Baker, Dr. Sean Baker. And by the way, congratulations on getting your license back. Every time I go on social media, I see people congratulating you. So, I mean, I feel weird saying it because I know you heard it a million times, but there you go. So, but what he said that struck a chord with me is something to the effect that even though the carnivore diet is an elimination diet, a diet where you eliminate a lot of problematic foods and just eat meat, drink water, it's also a bit of an illumination diet in that it's in the presence of a carnivore diet, a lot of things are revealed about other foods. I often think about how we're often told that foods are superfoods like broccoli and kale and spinach and stuff like that. And then you hear about all these exotic berries from the forest somewhere, you know. And I think that we've been told that so many times that we just start to believe it well, it just keeps people just keeps repeating it, so it must be true, right? And I think that's a little bit of the brainwashing going on there. Now, some people are just selling a product, and some people, they really want everybody to stop eating animals. And, there's all kinds of different motivations. But I think that maybe finally with the carnivore diet, the Illumination really shows us that this food emperor with all these superfoods really isn't wearing any clothes and hasn't been wearing any for a long time. I think that I've heard it said many times that the subconscious or unconscious mind tends to believe whatever it hears the most is true. So if you keep hearing that message that a food is a superfood or that plants are healthier for you than meat, then maybe our unconscious or superconscious or subconscious mind tends to believe it because it's not really reasoning, it's just recording, and it keeps inserting that information into a spot that it regards as truth when it's really not. I mean, and some people will tell you that this is really some sort of magic, is that you can just plant an idea in somebody's head and keep reinforcing it, and that's really the heart of the magic right there. Probably a lot of people in advertising are that talk about this all the time. It's almost like a new truth is spoken into existence that has no real substance to it. It just exists in our imagination. It's almost like some sort of strange Orwellian programming. For whatever reason, I'm not saying there's one giant overarching conspiracy. It's probably a bunch of little conspiracies that overlap. People trying to make money, people thinking it's really true, and they're trying to help other people. People who want us to stop eating animals, people who are horrified by factory farming, on and on. So, I think back to my generation probably watched a lot of TV compared to any other generation, and I remember seeing Wilford Brimley on TV selling oatmeal. I thought it was a good idea, and I stepped it up a notch. I didn't eat the instant oatmeal. I ate the steel cut oats. But then eventually he's on TV selling diabetic supplies, and you gotta kind of think that's kind of ironic that he spent all that time trying to sell us this supposed healthy grain cereal, and in the end we find out that it's really not that good for us, and that we're probably destroying our teeth on top of destroying the rest of our body because we're eating excessive amounts of carbohydrates. And of course, a lot of those foods like oatmeals, they come packaged with all kinds of different sugars and flavorings and stuff. And instant oatmeal is super processed, so that goes right into your bloodstream in a hurry. So I get, oatmeal and oat bran and all that stuff is supposed to lower your cholesterol and make you healthier and blah, 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 blah. And I don't think any of it's true. I really don't. I'm convinced otherwise. So maybe in the light of the carnivore diet, we see a lot of those things illuminated for what they really are. And maybe we just this is all because we evolved to eat meat, and we eat meat because we evolved. We have these large, expensive brains because we're able to digest animals that have already digested, grass or leaves or whatever. The herbivores, the animals with the multi-chambered stomachs, the animals with the giant cecums that can ferment and break down cellulose and all the less nutritious foods and turn them into fatty acids and amino acids and build an animal that less efficient animals like us come along and eat. I think that we live in a culture that's biased against meat and biased in favor of plants, and we need to have a little bit more discussion about plant-based superfoods, because I think it's become more and more clear that a lot of these plant foods have all kinds of irritants in it. I know more and more the topic of things like oxalates is coming out, and I'm sure everybody alive has heard about gluten intolerance. But there's a number of other plant compounds that are also irritating to human beings, both their digestive tract and compounds that accumulate. Things like oxalates can cause arthritic like pains and stuff like that because they accumulate in the joints. And here we've been taught that plants and eating plenty of greens and fresh fruits and vegetables and even herbal medicine was supposed to save us from all these things, but maybe it's the plants themselves that are causing most of these disorders. Most of the plants we eat have only been around in any sort of abundance for some time in the last 200 years. If you go to your grocery store, look in the produce section and look up the origin of any one of those plant-based foods that you find in there, and find out for yourself. Don't take my word for it. I'm starting to think that in a weird sort of way, the enemies of meat are probably the enemies of mankind. I think that all this pressure for whatever reason to not eat meat, to not eat animal flesh, is probably one of the single biggest undoings of mankind that we've faced in a long time. If you just think, if it's really true that Ansel Keys' advice to avoid animal products, saturated fat, and so on, has caused this epidemic of type 2 diabetes, obesity, perhaps Alzheimer's, autism, if all these things have been affected by that shift in diet, that shift to heavy grain diet, lots of fruit, lots of vegetables, if all the damage that's been done by that, then the people who are the enemy of meat are the enemies of mankind. Of course, time will tell, but I can tell you from my personal experience, eating a high-fat, high-meat diet completely eliminated my arthritis. It's helping me get more fit. I'm putting on muscle and reducing body fat just like I wanted. My blood pressure's good. My lipid panel's good. I feel great. My mood's drastically improved. I don't have to worry about anxiety like I used to. It doesn't rule my life like it used to. So I think that really what's happening, we've all just been the victims of bad information. And I think this whole concept of pushing plants as superfoods is part of the bad information. And it's kind of opened the door to some of these sort of extremist sort of ideas that we're going to live in the future without eating any animals. We're going to make food out of peas, and we're going to supplement it with amino acids and stuff. And I think it's all pretty ridiculous. If anything, we just need to improve the system by which we acquire our meat. That's it. Put the herbivores back on the prairies where they belong. Restore the wetlands and all that. If you want to save the planet, let the animals sequester the carbon like they're supposed to. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I hope you guys will subscribe. I hope you'll pass links on to other people. Give the video a like. Leave me some comments. Let me know how I can do better videos. I'm still working on carnivoreinfo.com. I add a little every day. I add studies, videos, whatever resource I can to help people understand that this isn't just some whim. This isn't just some new fad diet. This is a diet that's existed as long as man has walked the earth. It existed as long as most of our predecessors walked the earth. So if you want to know more about how a carnivore diet can maybe help you with a health problem, go over to meatheals.com. Look for whatever type of medical issue you got there, and look at the testimonies from people who have tried this. If you're on Facebook, check out the Ketogenic Fasting Project there, or Autistic Carnivores. If you or somebody in your family is autistic and you want to talk to other people who are eating the carnivore diet and doing well on it. If you're more general groups like World Carnivore Tribe, go there. There's lots of people there. It's a huge group. There's lots of people talking about it, different subjects that fall under this umbrella all the time. 100% Carnivore and Beyond, that's another one. Zeroing in Health is one of the originals. I think it predates Facebook even. And then I've got that group Carnivores Beating Autoimmune Disease that I'm working on. It's a tiny little group now. It hasn't really gotten off the ground, but I'm working on it. So anyways, I hope this helps somebody out there, and I hope everybody feels better. See you online.